There are a lot of simple and easy counter surveillance tricks that I have spoken about in the past, like the box maneuver, where you make 4 straight right hand or left hand turns going around the block or going full circle in a roundabout. And these all work great if there is one vehicle following you and that person is not well trained as a surveillance investigator. But what if there are multiple operatives? What if there are 2 or 3 people following you? How do you handle this type of scenario? That is exactly what we will discuss in this video. We should first discuss, though, why there might be multiple people surveilling you. Generally, if the police, or just about any government entity, including those 3-letter organizations, if they are surveilling you, they will be using multiple operatives. Whenever someone with law enforcement experience talks to me about moving into the PI industry and doing surveillance, I always caution them that PI surveillance and cop surveillance are two different things. We PIs do not usually have more than 1, maybe 2 surveillance vehicles at our disposal. We PIs do not have the luxury of having the ability to have someone come relieve us when we need to, well, relieve ourselves. We PIs do not have the luxury of having a team on every stakeout so we can swap positions to help us stay comfortable and help maintain a stealthy operation. We PIs have to go out and sit in our car, hunkered down for hours on end in the freezing winter, in the sweltering summer, and when the subject goes active, it's all up to us on our own to follow the subject and get the money shot. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. But there are occasions when we PIs do use multiple operatives on a surveillance. But even then, it often looks a lot different than cop surveillance. Usually, if we have a multiple operative surveillance, each investigator has a set role and they still have to stay hunkered down, hidden in their vehicle during the freezing winter, during the sweltering heat of the summer, and be ready to move on a moment's notice regardless of whether they are eyes on the subject, eyes on the exit, or first to follow. But why do we need to use multiple operatives on a surveillance? This is a key thing to know before you can determine if there are multiple operatives. Many times we would use multiple investigators in a surveillance if the subject became aware of surveillance in the past. Once a PI got burned, the necessity to use 2 or 3 increased to ensure success in future surveillances. Night surveillance will often require multiple investigators too. Contrary to popular belief, night surveillance is much more difficult than daytime surveillance. We also use multiple investigators on sensitive domestic cases that involve child custody or high-value targets or high-value clients for that matter. It would seem to make sense that the easiest thing to do to tell if you're being followed, be it by 1 person or by 3 people, would be to watch your mirror. And that makes sense, and you need to do that. Make note of what cars are behind you. But the problem lies in the techniques that they use when following with multiple operatives. They rarely just have 1 person stay behind you the entire time. In most instances, they will use techniques like leapfrogging, paralleling, staggering, or following from the front. Leapfrogging is when 1 vehicle will be behind the target for a set period of time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes out in the open road, or 2 to 5 minutes in a densely populated area. Then the tail, the eyes-on guy, falls back and another car moves in to take the tail. Then it is simply rinse and repeat throughout the remainder of the surveillance. The stagger technique is similar, but the other investigators, not the tail, the other investigators pass the subject. Then, when it gets time to swap, the tail passes the subject. The next in line slows down in front so the subject passes him, and then he takes the tail. Oftentimes, they may use the following from the front technique, where the eyes on the guy is trying to stay in front of the subject and the others are further back. So if the target takes an exit, the front man may lose sight, but the other 2 can pick him back up. And then there is the long haul staggering technique. This involves 1 investigator being the primary tail long distance. When you're on the open road, you can follow from a half-mile back and easily not be noticed. Then the others take predetermined forward positions at key exits along the way. Then they can, as necessary or as planned, have the main tail take an exit after the subject passes it, and a new investigator pulls in behind them from the on-ramp and follows, again, at a distance. We have had cases like this where we followed subjects hundreds of miles safely, even across state lines where we had PIs in those states waiting to take over. So how do you tell if they're following you? Well, like I said, be aware, watch your mirror, make note of vehicles behind you and others around you. Note their make, model, year, and any noticeable markings like bumper stickers or broken tail lights. But most surveillance PIs aren't going to have those easily identifiable markings on their vehicle. In fact, most will have nondescript, boring old cars like soccer mom vans or crossover SUVs, plain colors, nothing noticeable. Your best bet is to watch the license plates. Now, I know you can't remember every license plate you see, but you may be able to remember 2 numbers of that license plate. You don't want to memorize the first 2 numbers, though. You want to remember the last 2 numbers. And then I always try to tie the numbers to the vehicle. Like if it's a blue van with a license plate ABC012, then maybe I would remember 12, the van is blue. You don't want to remember the first part because in most states, those first letters are often tied to the county or the region the vehicle is registered to. The last ones are the unique ones that you need to pay attention to. You could drive around and conceivably see multiple blue vans with ABC license plates in the same county. But the odds of seeing multiple blue vans with the last 2 digits of 12 are much less likely. Not impossible, but probably like a 1 to 2% chance. If you can remember the last 3 digits, that is even better as the odds decrease even more. So you can use simple techniques like pulling into a gas station and letting the car behind you go past you to grab those last 2 or 3 digits of the plate. You might watch and see if they follow you for a long time, then they pass you. Then you can grab those plate numbers. Just be careful. Do not be trying to write them down while driving. Another technique to watch for is the pull-off technique. I have used this many times on longer follows. I will pull off, like pull into a parking lot where I know I can quickly get back on the road without being seen. Doing this allows me to then place a vehicle or 2 between me and my subject. But if the subject has seen my plate and they know those last 2 digits tied to the color or the make or the model for that matter, they will take notice eventually. And why would I tell these secrets when I am always doing PI training videos, you may ask? Well, surveillance PIs need to know what our subjects already know. None of this is really new. People have been using this trick for decades. It is just one that a lot of private investigators are not aware of.